कुंज बिहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जनवल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारि यमुना तीरावनचारि जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी 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 जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्रोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्रोत्र सत श्री श्रीमद अभय भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। मायापुर धाम की जय। नवद्वीप धाम की जय। Ganga Mai ki jai, Yamuna Mai ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulasi Maharani ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikas Swaminiti Namane. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschati Dashtari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So we are going to be reading from Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 7, text 27. So you can try to repeat, but I wanted to go over this couple of verses because, we were discussing a little bit about it this morning in relation to Sankirtan, but it's a very nice, small section in the 7th chapter. Okay, see if you can repeat. Ichcha dvesha samuthena Dvandva mohena bharata Sarva bhutani sammoham Sarge yanti parantapa. Okay. Translation. Actually, I'll write word to word meanings. Ichcha, desire. Dvesha, and hate. Samuthena, arisen from. Dvandva, of duality. Mohena, by the illusion. Bharata, a sign of Bharata. Sarva, all. Bhutani, living entities. Sammoham, into delusion. Sarge, while taking birth. Yanti, go. Parantapa, O conqueror of enemies. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities risen from desire and hate. Purport. The real constitutional position of a living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Sri Krishna appears by his internal potencies. But those who are deluded by duality and nescience think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in the qualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc., thinking, this is my wife, this is my house, I am the master of this house, I am the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. Those who are deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Agyanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udaf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitha Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Ichha desha samuthena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the four, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. Hare Krishna. So, well, let me say two more prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya Namaste Jastejase Avir Bhava Vajrana Kavajadamstra Karma Shayan Randhaya Tamokrasa Krasa Om Swaha Abhayam Atmani Bhuishtha Om Ksham Ajanu Lambita Bujao Kanakavadato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Daksho Vishwambaro Dijoro Yugadharma Balo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro. So here, one theme you can notice in Bhagavad-gītā is that Krishna and Arjuna call each other a number of names. And it's very interesting to analyze why they choose particular names to call each other in particular verses. It actually gives a lot of context, and it also signifies the intimacy between them. So here, Krishna in this particular verse, he is speaking about desire and hate, ichha and dvesha, and the bewilderment, delusion, moha that arises because of that because of desire and hate, because of the dualities. And here, Krishna uses the word parantapa in reference to Arjuna. Why parantapa? So, this word parantapa refers to one who is the conqueror of enemies. And he also uses the word Bharata, which means scion of Bharata. Bharata is arguably the greatest king in the history of India or the whole planet, because the whole planet is named after him. So, to be a descendant of that person means that you are very great. You are such an exalted person that you are a descendant. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, all these things have been forgotten. In the previous ages, there were great people, and to be descendants of such great people was considered to be a great honor, especially royal lineages. But with the abolition of monarchy and institution of democracy, more or less these things are not followed much anymore. But still, it's there. There is, actually, you've all heard of Mao Zedong? Mao?
Yeah, China. Yes.
China? Yes. Mao, one of the greatest, biggest communists. Not a very holy person, for sure. He was a big atheist, and he's a big, And there are so many things that he did, which we don't have to talk about here. But Mao is basically the founding father of China, right? The current Republic of China. He is the founding father. It's called. Therefore, you have these words, Maoist. Yeah. Maoist means one who follows the philosophy of Mao. And Mao, anyways, he established this ideal of communism in China. Big guy. I mean, they practically worship him. There are big statues of Mao in China, and people go and place flowers, offer obeisances, and all this kind of things. Atheistic country, so it's what happens. Now, Mao has a son, actually. And that son is not, I mean, if you look at the qualities of that person, I think his son or grandson, probably grandson by now. Anyways, he has a descendant who's alive right now, but he's not in the high levels of the Chinese Communist Party. He's, because you analyze his qualities and characteristics, you will understand that he's not the brightest bulb in the box. It's he's not very sharp. He's actually not very intelligent. But just because he happens to be a descendant of Mao, he gets treated like royalty. He just gets treated like royalty, although he completely doesn't deserve any of that. Just because he happens to be a descendant of that, he gets that kind of royal treatment. Why am I saying that? Because that's an atheistic country, where communism, where everybody's supposed to be equal. But you're not equal. Because the moment you are connected to some kind of great person, you are considered great. Even though you personally may not be great. So here Arjuna is being referred to as Bharata and Parantapa. But it's very interesting that Krishna is using this in a verse where he's speaking about Ichcha, Dvesha and Moha. That Krishna is basically making the point to Arjuna that, because what is Krishna saying here? Ichcha desha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sarge. Sarga. Anybody knows what sarga means? Creation, correct. It's one of the topics of the Bhagavatam. It comes in the 12th canto, list of topics that have been discussed in the Bhagavatam. Atra sarga, visarga, poshanam, like this. So sarga means creation. Sarge means created. So created living beings who have been born. But Sayan of Bharata means you have been born in the lineage of Bharata. You've been born in that lineage. So Krishna is making the point. You may be born in that great lineage, O Bharata, by the way, but Sarva Bhutani, all living entities, are born in delusion. All living entities are born in delusion. Don't think that just because you've been born in a great family, you are not in illusion. This is nectar. If you analyze Bhagavad-gītā like this, it's quite nice. Because then you can see, Krishna is not just randomly using, he just wants to be poetic and he uses one word, Sounds nice and he throws it in there, Just because he's writing some poetry. And Parantapa and Bharata kind of fits here, so let's just throw it in there. It's not like that. He's Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, So he has a specific reason why he's putting that word there. And then he uses the word Parantapa because these living entities, they are defeated by these desires basically by desire and hate, and by the illusion that arises because of that. Because they are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arising from desire and hate, they are always defeated. They are defeated by material energy. They are completely controlled by material energy. O Parantapa, who is the conqueror of foes. Even though you may be a conqueror of the foes, you are not conqueror of material energy. You don't think that you can conquer material energy. And this is a very important point for all of us to understand. And again, Krishna, being in the position of a guru, speaks somewhat harshly here to Arjuna. Parantapa means conqueror of enemies, conqueror of foes, enemies. So Krishna is being harsh on Arjuna in one sense, because he's poking him in one sense where it hurts. Arjuna is a Kshatriya, and among the different kind of, classes or Varnas, Kshatriyas are very proud of their lineage. It means everything to them. it means so much to them, like to uphold the values of their family, to uphold that lineage, to identify themselves with that lineage. And for Krishna to use that, Krishna could have made the point without using that. But if he uses that, it pinches where it matters. That the Guru, in this way, he preaches in a manner where it really, you can say it hurts the hardest. And that's because that's where the attachment lies. Sadhu means what? Sadhu means one who severs the knot of attachment by the sword of knowledge. This is sadhu. That's the duty of a sadhu. And the Guru especially has to be very expert in identifying where the disciples' attachments are and then going straight at it. And this is what Krishna is doing to Arjuna. Another thing that so Krishna is pointing out to Arjuna that, listen, because you are the scion of Bharata and because you are a Kshatriya, even you are deluded by this. Because actually you are not this body, but even you are deluded by this. And therefore, he uses that word. Parantapa, Arjuna is the greatest warrior on the planet. I mean, just the greatest warrior. There is nobody like him. But still, out of pride, don't think that you are greater than material energy. Don't think that you are so qualified. And this is an important point to understand, because even though we are devotees, we have to understand what we've been born into and what we are capable of doing. That Prabhupada writes here that when one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, what is that pure knowledge? The real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. So to be subordinate to the Supreme Lord, that is pure knowledge. What does that mean? Subordination to the subordination to the Supreme Lord. What does that mean? Okay, no, that's not. What does it mean, subordination? Who's subordinate? The servant. And so, Jivera Surupahoi Krishna Nitya Das. To be a servant, what quality must one have? Humility. That humility born out of subordination to the Supreme Lord is a sign of pure knowledge. It is a sign of real knowledge. And when a person forgets this pure knowledge, when he becomes separated from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by the illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to the desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is it that due to desire and hate, one becomes envious of the Supreme Lord and desires to become one with him? Because Mayavad is the last snare of Maya, that we've also heard. Mayavad, the desire to become one with the Supreme Lord, is the last snare of Maya. Because after the living entity fails to control the universe, he decides now the solution is, if I myself become God, then everything is solved. So let me become God. And in this way, the Supreme Lord, in this way, the living entity envies the Supreme Lord. As devotees, practicing devotees, it's very important for us to understand this duality of desire and hate. Because as long as these dualities of desire and hate exist, we are very capable of fall down. We are very capable of being illusioned. And therefore, and how do you avoid this desire and hate? Because you look at something, you like it. You look at something else, you don't like it. Duality, desire and hate. Srila Prabhupada writes here. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain. So these things. So symptomatically, it's not a big thing to understand. Symptomatically, you can understand. If we are affected by honor and dishonor, by misery and happiness, by good and bad, pleasure and pain, we're in delusion. Prabhupada writes, this is my wife, this is my house, I am the master of this house, I am the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay, and now we are practicing Krishna consciousness and we still have these things. Therefore, it's very important. Therefore, Krishna doesn't just stop with this verse. He goes on to the next verse, which we discussed a little bit this morning. Yesham tvantakatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion. They engage themselves in my service with determination. So, those who are interested in acting piously, who have acted piously in their previous lives, who are interested in acting piously in this life, and who are averse to sinful activity, they are the only ones who can overcome this duality of desire and hate. And this is really important to understand, because as we go on in devotional service, sometimes we don't feel, we even wonder if there's any need for us to overcome these things. And I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'm taking prasadam, I'm being with the devotees. Why do I have to constantly worry about these kind of things? But we do, because until we become free from this, there's always the chance of fall down. There's always the chance of becoming degraded. So how do we know that we won't become degraded? The more we become averse to performing sinful activities, the more we become averse to doing things that cause sinful activity. This is very important. That means one is desires to live a pious life. Okay, so we have the 4 pillars of sin, which is the 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. That's good. But there is more to that meaning. There's more to, illicit sex. What is also illicit sex? Divorce is illicit sex. It's a tough thing. But we have to become averse to these things. Otherwise, how are we going to make advancement in Krishna consciousness? Because if a devotee just has a very superficial understanding of what is sin, then they actually won't avoid being sinful. It's also sinful to unnecessarily torture other living entities or torment other devotees for no reason. This is sinful. There are small things that are sinful, that are there in our heart, and a devotee, a sadhu, becomes peaceful from these things. When I was a kid, that many kids have done this. I did this. There's an ant. You use we used in India, we call that magnifying glass. I don't know what you call it. Magnifying glass, a handheld thing. You say the same thing here, okay? And you use that in sunlight. You see this ant going, and you try to focus all the sunlight on that poor thing, and the poor thing, burns up literally and dies. It didn't do anything wrong, but we are inclined to these kind of things. These are small things, but a devotee becomes averse to these kind of activities. A devotee starts to feel compassion for other living entities and doesn't engage in sinful activity. A devotee doesn't want to contribute to any kind of sinful enterprise. I remember when one of my main motivations in joining, I wanted to join full time. But one thing that helped me is I was working as a software engineer, which is what most Indians end up doing anyways, nothing special. So I was working for Target, which is a big chain departmental store in the United States. They sell everything, basically. And I was working for Target Australia, and I was writing coding to make their inventory very efficient, their management of their different inventories and things like that. And I realized as I was coding that actually what I was making them very efficient in was selling salmon. Salmon? Salmon, they don't understand salmon. Fish. It's a variety of fish. That because Target's such a big, company in Australia, they have to make sure that their stocks are properly managed before the fish go bad. So otherwise they have to efficiently move things or whatever, And I was helping with that. It just hit me so hard when I was doing that. I was already chanting and practicing and things like that. And I was like, what am I doing? This is what I'm doing? How can I consider myself following the principle of no meat eating if I'm actually facilitating this horrific thing of facilitating whatever fish to be sold efficiently for the profit of meat eaters? And so we become averse to these things. But there's more. There's more. When a devotee actually becomes averse to sinful activity, he becomes averse to another thing as well. What is that? There is sin, and then there is something that is greater than sin. Offenses. Actually, a devotee who becomes further advanced in his understanding understands that because of offenses, one will commit sinful activity. Offenses lead to sinful activity. Why does offenses lead to sinful activity? Because after committing offenses, one loses taste in devotional service. When one loses taste in devotional service, what are you left with? What are you left with? We all have taste for something. Sense gratification. Why sense gratification? Ichha dvesha samutvena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sarge. We were born into this taste. We were born into this degraded taste of delusion arising from the dualities of desire and hate. And therefore we will go back to that. Now, of course, the way an Indian may go into Maya may be different to the way a Russian goes into Maya or a German goes into Maya and, etc. Depending on your background, your particular psychophysical nature, your Maya will go like that. But it's Maya nevertheless. It's like for those who have never eaten meat in their life, they probably won't eat meat even if they're in Maya. It doesn't make them great. Even goats don't eat meat. It doesn't mean anything. But they're Maya. You've lost Krishna consciousness. So, in fact, through offenses, sometimes one can be in a situation worse than what one was before. Why? Because before one was just ignorant of spiritual life. Now one has become averse to spiritual life. It's actually a worse situation. Because those who are innocently ignorant, there is still some hope for them. But for a devotee who has become an offender, and because of that they have turned bitter, it's so difficult to get them back on the right path. It's so difficult to get them for them to become faithful again. It's almost impossible. They literally, it might not be possible in this lifetime because they have become so bitter to devotional service. And their association also tends to be very bitter. It's like, they tend to, be very enthusiastic to spread that bitterness. This all comes because they have not become tvantagatam papam. They have not, tvanta antagatam. Antagatam means that sinful activity has more or less finished. Antagatam, it basically means eradicated, or completely eradicated, or almost fully eradicated. Antagatam, just eradicated completely. That first, to become free from sins and offenses, one should have a desire to not be sinful and not be offensive. Without that, you can't be sin. You will never achieve that platform. So, yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmana. Then, in that position, one can perform the pious activities. What is pious activities? Krishna consciousness is the best pious activity. We were especially speaking in reference to Sankirtan, distributing books, as the most pious activity. But in general, Krishna consciousness is the most pious activity. Jananam punya karmanam. So such persons, punya karmanam, for them, te dvandva moha nirmukta. So this is that bhakti pareshanubhava virakti ranyatracha. That as one makes more advancement in Krishna consciousness, one should develop a distaste for everything that is not Krishna conscious. And what is not Krishna conscious? Sins and then offenses. Generally, devotees more or less avoid committing sins. After some time, they stop. But to become free from offenses is actually very hard. If we actually analyze the 10 offenses to the holy name, it's quite hard. Excuse me. So, to what is the first offense? Blaspheme devotees who have dedicated their lives chanting the holy name of the Lord. That's a tough one. After some time in Krishna consciousness, it's hard. Because you're with so many kinds of devotees. And there is a tendency, especially when one is wronged in some way, shape or form, then it becomes very difficult for us to maintain a respectful attitude towards other devotees, to blaspheme devotees who dedicated lives chanting the holy name of the Lord. 2, consider names of demigods like Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Viṣṇu. This is easier for Western devotees. I remember one of my godbrothers from Croatia, he said from Slovenia. He said that when they first started this, consider names demigods like Shiva or Lord Brahma. Who the hell would do this? This is a stupid thing. Why would they do that? Krishna obviously says Bhagavad-gītā, I'm just like, what is this? What is that verse? I'm thinking this verse where Krishna says everything has come from me. Aham sarvasya prabhava mata sarvam pravartate. So it's very clear. Aham sarvasya prabhava means sarvasya means everything, includes the demigods. Prabhu, he is the master. Sarvasya prabhava mata sarvam pravartate. Everything comes from me. Okay, very clear. What's the difficulty? It's very difficult for Indians. So many of them. Very hard. When they came to India, it was like, oh my God. It's like people are so attached. And so that's a relatively easy thing. 3, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. That's a tough one also. Because spiritual master, he gives a lot of instructions. And unless one has faith in them, it's hard to execute them. And here's the beauty. what is a type of disobeying? Ignoring the spiritual master's instructions is a kind of disobeying the order of the spiritual master. It's not that one has to openly do something else, but if you don't do what the spiritual master asks you to do, that's also disobeying, correct? You go ask someone to wash pots. Okay, they didn't go and watch TV, but they didn't wash the pots. So that means you disobeyed, correct? So if spiritual master tells us to do something, and he's like, no. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. I don't think this is practical. This is Guru Avagya. And it's a really tough one. Because, and why should we be interested to follow the order of the spiritual master, even if it's very difficult, even if it's very hard? Icha dvesha samutvena, dvandva mohena bharata. Otherwise we'll be overtaken by dualities of hate and desire. Then where is the hope? Where is the hope? You just keep going birth after birth after birth. And therefore, so one who wants to engage in pious activities, he can only really engage in pious activities if he becomes free from sins and offenses. Now what's the first offense? Fourth. No, that's the fifth. Blaspheme the Vedic literatures in pursuance of the Vedic version. Again, this is sometimes very hard to understand because one has to understand the Vedic literatures in line with Srila Prabhupada, in line with the predecessor acharyas. Otherwise, if you take things out of context, it's very, very, very difficult to digest things that are found in the Vedic scriptures. And this is like, because I'll give you an example. Even though, and I'm not even talking of scriptures like Manu Samhita, which are like really, I've had some devotees come up to me and say, Prabhu, I want to read Manu Samhita. Please don't read. You'll get completely confused. The Manu Samhita is a dharmic text. And dharma is understood as explained by the acharyas and in line with ultimately the Yuga Dharma, which is in that particular age. And otherwise, these texts, these dharma shastras, they can be very confusing. But I'll give you an example where some people might become quite bewildered. Have you all heard of the story of Sakshi Gopal? Yes. What is the story?
He didn't want to go back on his promise with the Brahmana or whatever. So, but he couldn't.
Who? He.
The Brahmana gave his daughter.
So there is a young Brahmana who goes on yatra with an older Brahmana, and the older Brahmana becomes very pleased with the younger Brahmana and offers him a benediction, saying and promises in front of a deity of Gopal and Vrindavan that I will give my daughter in marriage to you. But then the younger Brahmana says, no, don't do this kind of promise. You may regret it. No, he says, I'll promise, and I'm promising in front of the deity. Then when he goes back to the village, the older Brahmana becomes anxious, but still he wants to keep his vow. He tells his family members, the family members flip out. They get very angry. Am I speaking too fast, by the way? Or is it okay? Is it okay? All right. So then, the story goes that the older Brahmana is not allowed to express, and the brother of the Brahmana's eldest son decides to lie and try to cheat this younger Brahmana. And then the younger Brahmana brings the deity of Sakshi Gopal, who comes as witness, and then gains the hand of that Brahmana's daughter. Okay. Anybody notice something that's very interestingly missing in this whole story? Somebody's opinion is not even cared about here. The daughter.
Yes.
Everybody is discussing about her future. The whole village is discussing about her future. Nobody is discussing with her. It's actually true. You think about the story, it was really hilarious because we were like, it, I mean, it's like she's discussed, oh, are you suitable? And the brother gets to have a say, the older Brahmana gets to have a say, the whole village is debating about the whole thing. But the daughter is never asked whether she's okay with it or not. This is found in Chaitanya Charitamrita. What are you going to do about it? Sexist, culture, patriarchal, misogynistic, sexist culture. That was the culture. Nobody, even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was discussing it, none of the other people said, hey, what about that girl? Nobody's saying anything. Now, what does it mean? It means we have to understand, okay, this is Vedic culture. We are maybe not there, okay? We don't think that we are right now, even in our society, anywhere close to that kind of a position where, somebody just discusses and this, that, and then you just, tell the daughter, okay, you're married to this person, period. We're definitely not in that circumstance. Yet, to not be averse to what is stated in Shastra, this is very important. Okay, this is the ideal culture. This is that culture. This is what that culture speaks of. And there is a what does it mean to not be averse? It means to try to understand that culture. Why is that culture there? Why is that beneficial? Why did none of these men have a problem with it? Because if you don't, what happens is you start to blaspheme. Right? Otherwise you will think, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, what is this? Supreme Personality of Godhead. He doesn't see a problem with the story. He doesn't see a problem. Prabhupada doesn't seem to have a problem. You all don't have a problem. You're all misogynists. They reject Prabhupada's books, throw everything out. Is this real? Real things that have happened like this. So, to not blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures and persons of the Vedic version, it can be difficult because of our conditioning. Because sometimes some things don't fit the way we expect it to fit. But why? If we understand, Ichha Dvesha Samartvena, Dvandva Mohena Bharata, I am born into illusion. How much importance am I going to give to my delusion that is arising out of my desire and hate? I look at this and I think, but my feeling, if my feeling is not shared by Prabhupada, is not shared by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's not shared by the previous acharyas, then I must accept that as delusion. And this is very important because that delusion leads to an offensive attitude which causes us to lose taste in devotion service, cause sinful activity. So, okay, and then fifth offense, consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. So, again, we've been chanting for so many years. I don't know if it's actually working. I don't have any taste anymore. These kind of doubts creep into our head many times. But it's very simple. If we don't have proper Shravanam, then Kirtanam will not happen. And therefore, it's very important that one orients one's life. This is where again the principles of Dhyana Yoga that comes in Bhagavad-gītā are very important. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta chestasya karmasu, yukta swapnava bhovadasya, yogo bhavati dukkaha. Anybody knows the exact verse number? I'm bad with numbers. But 6 what? Let's see. Oh, great. You're wonderful. Now, this is the verse before that. Actually, Krishna says, Nat yashnatastu yogosti na chaikantam anashnataha Na chati swapna shilasya jagrato naiva charjuna. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. So here in the previous verse, Krishna is speaking of eating and sleeping. And then in the next verse, again he speaks about eating and sleeping. Yukta ahara viharasya. So you have ahara and vihara. Ahara means sleeping, vihara means recreation or rest. And then you have karmasu. Viharasya is recreation. I'm sorry. You have swapna bodhasya, sleep and wakefulness. And then you have karmasu, work. So Krishna in that verse is discussing 4 things: sleeping, eating, working, and recreation. If you notice, Krishna has spoken about eating and sleeping twice. First verse he talks about eating, again he refers to eating and sleeping, which means that eating and sleeping is extremely important to be balanced. If we are not balanced in eating and sleeping, you cannot be balanced in performing your work. In our case, that work is Krishna consciousness. What is our work in Krishna consciousness? You have to rise early in the morning, you have to chant your rounds attentively, you have to hear the Bhagavatam class, you have to read Prabhupada's books, we have to perform our different devotional services. These are our karmas, so this is our work. And if we don't eat and sleep properly, we cannot perform that work well, which means we struggle to hear. You struggle to chant the holy name because you feel tired, you're sleepy. You struggle to hear the Bhagavatam class because it's, you're just out, because you're just, your brain is just shot. It's just like you can't focus. And because of that, you feel like you need to take a break, a recreation. It's very interesting. Srila Prabhupada in the purport there in the Yuktahara Viharasya, he says for devotees there's no need of recreation. Because the karmis, they work so hard. And therefore, they need a holiday. If you don't give Saturday, Sunday off, people will go crazy. They'll just go straight crazy. They need that to kind of like just hold them from going completely berserk. Yeah. And in spite of Saturday and Sunday, they still need vacations also. You need long weekends. And what is it? I don't know here how in the US you get like about 15 days off per year or something like this. 30 days, my God. Yeah, see, Europe, yeah. 30 days off. Where they give that in the US? They just fire you, that's all. But for a devotee, we don't have that, do we? You don't have that. Okay, when you join the brahmachari ashram, and you get people joining, do you tell them, you got a month off in a year? You get 1 month off. But actually for a devotee, it's not required. That's what Prabhupada makes the whole point. Because if we're regulated, why do you need it? Because your Krishna conscious karmasu is blissful. Why do you want to take a break from bliss? But if you're not blissful, then you need to take a break.
Yes.
If it's blissful, you'll take a break from bliss. You ought to be miserable. I'm being too happy, Prabhu. I need to be miserable for some time. And go suffer a little bit. No, see, we don't believe. See, the karmis, many times when you go out on book distribution also, sometimes you say, people are suffering. Well, suffering is good because otherwise you can't experience happiness. That's their philosophy. If you don't have little suffering, how can you be happy? It's not. As a devotee, on a devotional platform, we understand that the bliss of Krishna consciousness has nothing to do with suffering, and it cannot be compared to any form of suffering either. It's not like the kirtan feels better if you go and if somebody slapped you 2 times before the kirtan. You got 2 slaps, now kirtan feels blissful. No. Kirtan is blissful if you're into it. Otherwise, you can be in the kirtan and God knows which planet you're in. So, that you don't need that vihara, recreation. You don't require it. And why are we speaking all this? Because to do proper Shravan, one has initially, when one comes into Krishna consciousness, devotee, eat, and you keep eating. But after some time, you have to understand in Krishna consciousness, you keep eating, you can't study, you can't read, you can't, stay awake, you're just feeling sleepy all the time, really moded out. It doesn't work. You have to start like curbing, controlling little bit, because that it's important to have that regulation. So, when we become less attentive in Krishna consciousness, then the Hare Krishna mantra just seems to be a drag. It's just, and I don't know about all of you, I have experience. You don't chant your rounds, most of your rounds in the morning. It's a big, difficult. I had this, I had a hernia, surgery. And when you're sick, most of the time when you're sick, the sickness is worst at night. In the daytime, you're kind of okay. But at night, it really tortures you like anything. It's very difficult to sleep. You sleep, but then you kind of wake up, and then you wake. And so, I was so moded out in the morning. And I couldn't stay awake because I was struggling to fall asleep. So then I couldn't stay awake. So I would get up and then I would sleep again, because there's a lot of pain. And I didn't want to take these weird steroid type of, pills that they give you. I just like whatever, just tolerate the pain. So then I had to chant most of my rounds. I had to chant all of my rounds in the evening. Oh my Krishna. What would take, 2 hours, it would take 4 hours in the evening. Because your mind is just, anyways, when you're sick, you're already spaced out. And then you're now chanting in the evening, you're even more spaced out. And it becomes very difficult. So then immediately, all these things become difficult. Then what do you have? What is the sixth offense? To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. This is specifically those who are inclined towards mental speculation. They like to give some kind of meaning, some kind of something. In the US also, many people are interested in these sound healing. You heard of these things? I don't know if they're popular here. You have to tune into a particular frequency. And only in that frequency do you feel like you're in the state of being. What is being, what is state, they don't know anything. They just use whatever words they like. But I'm going to be in that space. And in that space, I will be healed. All this kind of language they use. So some people, what they do is because they think, okay, Hare Krishna mantra works. Why does the Hare Krishna mantra works? Because it's of a certain frequency or something like this. And they give these kind of meanings. They give their mundane interpretations to the holy name. This is another form. Generally, devotees don't have problems with that because one is we're not very scholarly. Two is anyways, most of the time, we're not very thoughtful either. So it doesn't matter too much to us. But that's there. Acharyas have given different meaning. I'll give you one meaning, very esoteric meaning, given by, I think, Viṣṇu Chakravarti Thakur has given this, that Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So you have Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So Hare and Krishna are together. And then you have Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. This is Sambhoga Vipralamba. You know Sambhoga Vipralamba? Krishna, Radha, Krishna coming together, Sambhoga, Vipralamba, separation. So the Hare Krishna mantra signifies that. Acharyas give that meaning. It's very esoteric meaning. Unless you're on that platform, you don't really meditate on. It's like, But yeah, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the meaning Acharyas have given. But we cannot give these kind of meanings. Only Acharyas can give. Okay, seventh offense. Yeah, to commit sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. Okay, so that's again, this is when, devotees, especially, what happens sometimes, we slip from our devotional service and we fall down, but we keep it a secret. We keep it a secret and we keep going on. Because, Krishna allows us to keep the show going on. I spoke about this also in the morning. We can do a service while we are fully in Maya. It was really hit me hard when one of my senior godbrothers, experienced book distributor, told me, I know that I can distribute a lot of books even when I'm in Maya. That doesn't mean I'm a great devotee because I'm distributing a lot of books. I can be fully in Maya. You can do that in many other services. We can be a cook, be fully in Maya, and still be cooking amazing things. Or you could be leading kirtan, be fully in Maya, having a lot of doubts, confusion, things like this. But you keep going on for some time because you've done it for so long, so you know how to do it. Krishna doesn't remove the empowerment right away. But this all falls in the category of committing sinful activities on strength of chanting the holy name. Because one is committing either offenses in one's mind, or one is straight away breaking the 4 regulative principles and going on with it, thinking that one will get away with it. So this is a very dangerous thing. And worse than that is those who justify the performance of sinful activities, that I'm chanting, it will go away. Then, 8th offense.
To consider the holy name of the Lord as a fruitive activity, as a karam kanda.
Yeah. That to consider the performance of Hare Krishna, chanting of Hare Krishna or devotional activities to be pious activities. That just for going to the heavenly planets. This is also something we may not relate to, but my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, he mentions the story of how there was an accountant at the Kolkata temple, and a very good accountant, and he was a devotee also. And his his main goal was that, I'm getting mixed up with 2 stories actually. No. I'm getting confused that there was an example, I believe Prabhupada spoke, but I'm not sure. Anyways, I know one story that Maharaj was stating, there was this devotee, I don't know if he was an accountant or not, that's where I'm getting a little mixed up. But there was a devotee, he would perform devotional service very nicely. He was very pakka, but he had one goal. That goal was to go to the heavenly planets, that's all. He was very clear about his goal. He wanted to go to the heavenly planets, and he performed devotional service for that because he knew that this is the best way to go to the heavenly planets. Srila Prabhupada said of his disciples that most of his disciples will go to the heavenly planets. Because if you have material desires and you're practicing Krishna consciousness and you're not living grossly sinful life, but you are maintaining material desires, you're going to go to the heavenly planets. That's what will happen. So, and here's the thing. In the heavenly planets, you live long lives. By the time we come back, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement might not be on this planet anymore. We'll still get to practice devotional service, but the great opportunity that came in the form of this Sankirtan movement, we don't know. Maybe Krishna will make some arrangement, we'll go to another universe. I don't know. You can speculate in so many ways, but Acharyas haven't said anything like that. So, we have to be careful that if we are cultivating that, therefore then you come back to what is the 9th offense?
To spread the glories of the holy name to a faithless person.
So to explain the glories of the holy name to a faithless person, one should know how to preach. This is stated in the 18th chapter also, that one should know how to preach Krishna consciousness. And certain things should not be shared, but then certain things are shared because devotees are merciful. And then 10th offense, to maintain material attachments, in spite of understanding so many instructions on this matter. So this is a very, very important thing, that if we maintain these material attachments and we don't become averse to these material attachments, you are not yesham tvantagatam papam. Because material attachments by nature, even if they are pious, ultimately, in the bigger picture, they are born out of ignorance. And it is that same ignorance that generates sin also. Sin comes from that same ignorance. This tamogun, this forgetfulness of Krishna, forgetfulness of our position as being a servant of Krishna, this is what causes this moha, illusion. And material desires, however pious they may be, are also born from the same misconception. Therefore, a devotee understands that if he maintains material desire, he is not very far away from sinful activity. He is not very far. The fruitive workers, they don't get this point. They actually think that they can be pious and be free from sinful activity. It's not possible. It is not possible. The moment you are pious, along with it comes sin. So to actually become free from dualities of illusion, one has to be averse to committing sins and consequently offenses. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has stated that the mother of all offenses is inattentive chanting. This is a really, really tough one. Something we have to work on every single day. Every single day. It's hard. I'm speaking for myself, I'm preaching to myself. And one who does that, he becomes completely free from let me go back to the verse we were discussing. And then finally, I wanted to go to the next verse after this. Jara marana mokshaya mama shritya yatantiye te brahma tad vidukritsnam adhyatmam karma chakilam. Intelligent persons who are endeavoring for liberation from old age and death take refuge in me in devotional service. They are actually Brahman because they entirely know everything about transcendental activities. We won't have the desire to practice Krishna consciousness firmly, strictly, sincerely if we are not interested in getting free from the cycle of birth and death. And that's not something that you can just say. It's actually scary because one couple came up to my Guru Maharaj and they had a son. And they said, Maharaj, please bless him. Then Maharaj said, what kind of blessing? No, bless him, Maharaj. And shall I bless him to be a pure devotee? No, Maharaj. They actually said no. At least they were honest. Because they want him to get blessings, but they want him to be a good materialist. And a devotee also. Devotee also. But should get a good job, good career, good wife, many children, have sufficient wealth. Chant Hare Krishna also. Donate. Be generous. You should donate also so much. You want him, donate. Maharaj, you bless him, he can earn a lot of money so he can give you some in donation. There you get, see, listen, we'll make this, we won't make this completely selfish. We'll give you something back also. It's like you bless, you get a perk also. You get some donations. What donation? You don't give. If Krishna wants to give money, who are you to prevent that? Money will come. Lakshmi Devi belongs to Krishna. He can give money through anybody. It's your good fortune if you're able to give some Lakshmi as a donation. That's your good fortune. You're not cutting a deal that I'll bless my child and I'll make sure that he gives some donations to you. But this is real because if you are not interested, eventually we need to go back to Godhead. We'll think about that someday. You're not going to be serious. You won't be yesham antagatam papam. And because of that dvandva mohena bharata, this icha dvesha samuthena, this illusion of desiring something, hating something, and being bewildered by this won't go away. It just won't go away. It won't go away. So, I thought I'd just speak about this small section here. And Finally, Krishna says in the last verse of this chapter, those in full consciousness of me, Sadi Bhutadi Daivam Mam, Sadi Yagyam Cha Ye Viduhu, Prayana Kale Pichamam, Te Vidur Yukta Chetasaha. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation of the demigods and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. So Krishna assures that these people, they will be in full consciousness of me, and they have understood me properly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they will remember me at the time of death. Prayana kale pichama. Here the word is prayana kale pi api. That even at the time of death, they will be conscious of me. Prayana kale pi chamam. So prayana kale api. Cha and. But even at the time of death, they will remember me. So this is our guarantee that this is the work we have to do so that we remember Krishna at the time of death. So I'll stop here. Any questions or comments? We have about 10 minutes. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you very much. Something that I have a question, I was looking for an answer. Thank you very much. I'm sure you'll get me to there. You were mentioning that if one does pious activities, or Prabhupada is saying most of the devotees might go to heaven. Are we going from heaven to the higher state, or we have to really come back to the planet to do something? Maybe not this planet, some other planet, but...
It's difficult to say. Sometimes some living entities go higher from there. However, most of them come back here, because that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad-gītā. What's that verse? Kshine punye marti lokam vishanti. Evam tvai dharma manuprapanna gatagatam kama kama labhante. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravirti norjuna. Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravirti norjuna. You have to come back here. Abrahma bhuvana loka, and he's referring to literally from Brahma's planet all the way down. You have to come back here is what Krishna says. This is a general way. Mm-hmm. There are cases where people go directly from there, but you have to understand that it's actually very hard. Which is why the demigods themselves want to take birth in this world to practice Krishna consciousness, because in this world we don't have so much luxury as that is found in the heavenly planets, and we are bewildered by it. You have so much more luxury, so much more opulence in the heavenly planet, and you are not going to become bewildered by it and be interested in Krishna consciousness?
But
it's very difficult.
But going to higher planets is because our consciousness is more purified. That's why we go up. Because one who is in the mode of goodness is
Correct.
Privileged to be there.
Correct.
So, which means though there is so much luxury than here, the chances of fall down is
minimal.
I wouldn't say zero.
Less.
But there is something. So I would say that is it not that most of the people can actually go from there above?
No, because mode of goodness, but still mode of goodness is still material. And the nature, Krishna also explains, of the three modes of material nature, you read, he says, sometimes one mode defeats the other mode. Sometimes mode of goodness is prominent. Sometimes mode of ignorance is prominent. Sometimes mode of passion is, this is the nature of the modes. That the modes are never completely stable. So this is, Yeah. So the modes are never completely stable. So that's one reason. So as long as one is infected by the other modes, one keeps going up and down. And which defeats one, cannot say, because Indra himself suffers. How many times Indra has come down? God cursed this, that, so many things we have heard. right? So, and even if you're stable up there, the demons come and kick you off. You know, so the point is that, and the other thing is, there are births where you have mode of goodness primarily, such as being born in a pious Brahmana family, where primarily you live in the mode of goodness. But you have the qualification to live in the heavenly planets is not just being in the mode of goodness. If you're just interested in being in the mode of goodness, you can be born as a Brahmana. But you have to have enough pious credits and desire to enjoy those heavenly planets, enjoy material opulence. And when that qualification, the punya karma, to enjoy that, you expend that, even if you're in the mode of goodness, you have to come back here because you have to take up a life where that opulence is not found. It's still in the mode of goodness, but you can't be up there. Because you don't, your bank account for enjoying that kind of opulence is gone.
And then is the Brahmaloka also residence for Lord Brahma?
Yes.
And he is a devotee, and do we see some reference that being such a great devotee who is super intelligent, of course we can also see that he was also affected sometimes by mode of passion, but still,
Very blessed.
but most of the time he is in the mode of goodness.
Hardly.
And also a great devotee.
Yes.
Who has, still again the same question, will he go to the spiritual world or will he have to take birth? Because we also see one can become Brahma if...
So let me answer that. So again, it depends on which Brahma. Prabhupada writes in the 9th canto, in a purport, that when the living entity falls down from the spiritual world, the first position he takes is the position of Brahma. Can you all believe it? We were all Brahmas. We once saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, received intelligence from Him how to create this entire universe. We have only one head, we lost our 3 heads. So, we are proof that all Brahma doesn't go up to the spiritual world. But, if that Brahma, living entity, is a pure devotee or is pure enough, then what happens? He, along with all the residents of that Brahma Loka, at that period of time, depending on this particular Brahma, they all go back home, back to Godhead. Because he takes them because he happens to be a pure devotee. So, it's very subjective.
Possible. Yeah.
It's complex.
Yeah.
I want to give him a chance.
Sure. Hare Krishna. I had a follow-up question, but yeah.
Yeah, but we're running out of time. So,
thank you for the amazing class. Srila Prabhupada, when he arrived with the Jaladuta, the first place where he went, it was this doctor whose wife was named Sally.
yeah, Sally Agarwal.
Right. And there was this incident in which there were some friends which were smoking, and they were coming to her house. And she knew that Srila Prabhupada really didn't like it. But when they came in, she clearly reminded that he was said to her, think of nothing and keep on. And that to me feels like, don't fall like into this judging them or like into the dualities of feeling yourself hating on some behaviors. So I was thinking whether like to relate it to your class, like how we can be averse to sinful activities, but not being in a healthy way, let's say. So not in a hating way.
Yeah, I mean, one should be averse to sinful activities, especially in regards to oneself. That's the most important point. And for others, it takes some spiritual maturity, because the neophyte by nature, he tends to hate, to some extent show extreme aversion to those who he feel will threaten his devotional service, because his devotional service tends to be weak. At the same time, a neophyte, if he's not careful, will fall down. So therefore it is recommended as much as possible that the neophyte associate with those who are more advanced than him. Because by associating with those who are more advanced than him, he can develop the proper perspective of those who he should not associate with, such as the Madhyamadhikari. He avoids the envious, but he doesn't hate them. But a neophyte feels the need to hate people for no valid reason. And that is because he is still very much affected by the dualities of desire and hate. A Madhyamadhikari has become somewhat free from that. And therefore is able to keep it to a large extent within a section where it doesn't endanger one's devotional service. So ultimately, a devotee, if they are very careful in understanding Siddhanta and they are very sincere in practicing, gradually they will overcome that by association with those who are more advanced. This is really the method. The positive method is what is emphasized, because the negative method, it's just there for prevention. But ultimately, the positive engagement of associating with those who are more advanced is what will actually lift us in Krishna consciousness. Not just avoiding, you know. By associating with them, automatically one gains the right perspective. Okay, it's 6:30. You know, they're probably going to blow the conch anytime soon. But we have to end. Yeah, it's better we end. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srimad Bhagavad-gītā ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa sindhubhyascha, patitanam pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo namo.